The morning of May 10, 1940, a Belgian soldier stands atop Fort Eben-Emael, the most impregnable fortress in Europe. 1,200 men, reinforced concrete walls, artillery capable of destroying anything within kilometers. Then silence. 9 gliders descend from the sky without a sound. Within minutes, 85 German paratroopers transform the strongest fortress on the continent into a smoking ruin. They carry no conventional explosives. They carry something the world has never seen, a weapon that focuses the fury of an explosion into a single, devastating jet of molten metal. A shell that burns through 7 layers of armor in a single shot. If you are watching this, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments where you are watching from. This story will change everything you thought you knew about modern warfare. To understand this revolution, we must go back 52 years before that fateful morning. The year is 1888. A civilian chemist named Charles E. Monroe works at the United States Naval Torpedo Station in Newport, Rhode Island. Monroe is not a soldier. He is a scientist obsessed with the behavior of explosives. Day after day, he conducts experiments, documenting how different configurations of gunpowder and dynamite interact with metal surfaces. One evening, he notices something peculiar. A block of explosive gun cotton bears the manufacturer's name stamped into its surface. When detonated next to a metal plate, the lettering is not merely burned onto the metal, it is cut into it. The indentation in the explosive has focused the blast energy. Monroe recognizes the significance immediately. He begins conducting experiments, hollowing out cavities in explosives and documenting the results. In 1894, Monroe constructs his first crude-shaped charge. He describes the experiment himself. A safe 29 inches cube with walls 4 inches and 3/4 thick, made up of plates of iron and steel. When a hollow charge of dynamite, 9.5 pounds in weight, was detonated on it, a hole 3 inches in diameter was blown clear through the wall. The hollow cartridge was made by tying sticks of dynamite around a tin can, with the open mouth placed downward. A tin can surrounded by explosives had punched through nearly 5 inches of solid steel. Monroe publishes his findings in Popular Science Monthly in 1900. The article circulates through scientific communities across Europe and America. Yet something crucial escapes everyone's attention: the tin can. That simple metal liner is the key to everything. Without it, the hollow charge merely focuses blast energy. With it, something far more devastating occurs. The metal transforms into a high-velocity jet capable of penetrating obstacles, thought to be impervious. This secret remains undiscovered for another 44 years. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, German scientist Egon Neumann conducts his own experiments in 1910. He discovers that a block of TNT with a conical indentation punches holes through steel plates that would otherwise only be dented. The German explosives company Wasag patents this discovery. Yet once again, the military implications go unrecognized. The Great War erupts in 1914. Millions perish in trenches scarred by artillery and machine guns. Tanks rumble across battlefields for the first time. The technology to defeat them already exists in scientific journals. No one connects the dots. The years between the wars see scattered progress. In the Soviet Union, Myron Yakovlevich Sukharevsky studies how explosions can form projectiles. In Britain, William H. Payment and Donald Whitley Woodhead make similar observations. In America, Robert Williams Wood documents the phenomenon. Each works in isolation. Each fails to grasp the weapon waiting to be born. Then comes 1932, Vienna, Austria. A young physics student named Franz Rudolf Tomanek attends lectures at the Technische Hochschule. Tomanek is not content with theory. He conceives an anti-tank round based on the hollow charge effect. Austria shows no interest. Tomanek moves to Berlin, where he continues his studies under the legendary ballistics expert Carl Julius Krantz. There, in 1935, Tomanek and colleague Helmuth von Hüttern develop a prototype anti-tank round. The performance proves disappointing. The charge focuses energy but lacks penetrating power. Tomanek does not give up. He collaborates with Hubert Scharden at the Waffeninstitut der Luftwaffe, the Air Force Weapons Institute in Braunschweig. Scharden believes hollow charge effects result from interacting shock waves. They are partially correct, but still missing the crucial element. On February 4, 1938, everything changes. Tomanek experiences a breakthrough. He conceives what he calls the Hohlladungs-Auskleidungseffekt, the hollow charge liner effect. By adding a metal cone inside the explosive cavity, the detonation does not merely focus energy. It transforms the metal liner into a superplastic jet traveling at hypersonic velocities. Gustav Adolf Thoma captures the phenomenon through flash radiography, the first images ever taken of a shaped charge jet in flight. The metal streams forward at 7 to 14 kilometers per second. At these velocities, steel behaves like a liquid. The jet does not melt through armor. It does not burn through armor. It flows through armor through sheer kinetic force, pressures reaching 1 trillion pascals. While German scientists work in laboratories, another man conducts parallel research in the mountains of Switzerland. Henry Hans Mohaupt, born August 16, 1915, is a chemical engineer with a restless curiosity. In late 1935, Mohaupt observes an accidental phenomenon during an explosives test. A shaped charge with a metallic lining produces unexpected results. The explosive energy deforms the liner into a fast-moving jet that penetrates an obstacle with extraordinary efficiency. Mohaupt immediately recognizes the potential. He applies for permission to purchase larger quantities of explosives. He requests authorization for expanded testing. His stated goal is to offer the invention to the Swiss Army. Mohaupt spends the next 2 years refining his discovery. He experiments with different liner materials, angles, and explosive compositions. By 1937, word of his work reaches Britain. 2 years later, in spring of 1939, Mohaupt demonstrates his weapon in Zurich before representatives of the British Royal Arsenal. The British watch carefully. They suspect they are seeing a variation of the already known shaped charge effect. The license fee Mohaupt demands seems excessive. They end negotiations, yet they do not dismiss the concept. British researchers accelerate their own shaped charge programs. Mohaupt does not stop. He travels to France, where he demonstrates the weapon to military officials. The French show greater interest. They recognize that this technology could revolutionize warfare. Infantry could destroy tanks. Aircraft could penetrate battleship armor. Fortifications could be breached in seconds rather than days. As war clouds gather over Europe, Mohaupt's invention becomes increasingly valuable. Permit me to pause here and remind you to subscribe if you are enjoying this deep dive into military history. Drop a comment below letting us know which country you are watching from. Your engagement helps us continue bringing you content like this. September 1st, 1939. Germany invades Poland. The Second World War begins. Tank warfare dominates the early campaigns. German panzers sweep through Europe with terrifying efficiency. Yet German military planners face a problem. The massive Belgian fortress of Eben-Emael guards the junction of the Albert Canal and the Meuse River. Any invasion of Belgium and France must pass this position. The fortress spans 35 hectares atop steep cliffs. Its walls incorporate reinforced concrete several meters thick. Heavy artillery pieces sit in rotating steel cupolas, each capable of destroying bridges and troop concentrations for kilometers in every direction. Over 1,200 Belgian soldiers man its defenses. Conventional assault would cost tens of thousands of German lives and weeks of time. General Kurt Student commands the German 7th Flieger Division, the Paratrooper Corps. Student receives orders to devise an unconventional assault. He proposes something never attempted in warfare. Glider-borne troops would land directly on the fortress roof. The silent aircraft would approach before dawn, releasing from their tow planes at altitude and gliding to their target without engine noise to alert defenders. But landing on the roof solves only half the problem. The paratroopers must then destroy artillery positions protected by steel and concrete meters thick. Student turns to the secret weapons developed by Dr. Wilfken of the German Ordnance Office. These are the Holodung, hollow charges refined from Tomanek and Chardin's research. The weapons come in two sizes, the 50-kilogram charge and the devastating 12.5-kilogram charge, designed for precision placement. These are not yet modern heat warheads with optimized metal liners. They are unlined explosive charges that focus blast energy through shaped cavities. Their penetration capability, while inferior to later designs, still exceeds anything defenders expect. The paratroopers train in absolute secrecy. Scale models of Fort Ibn Emmail are constructed in remote locations. Assault teams rehearse their approaches hundreds of times. Each man knows exactly which gun emplacement he will attack. Each carries specific charges for specific targets. The operation receives the code name Granite. May 10, 1940, 4:25 in the morning. 11. DFS-230 gliders release from their Junkers 52 transport aircraft above German territory. They glide silently toward Belgium as dawn approaches. 10 gliders carry the assault teams. One veers off course and lands in German territory. The remaining 9 descend toward the fortress. Belgian sentries peer into the lightening sky. They see shapes that do not register as aircraft. No engine sound, no warning. The gliders skid across the grass-covered roof of Fort Ibn Emmail and shudder to a halt. 85 paratroopers sprint from the aircraft. They disperse across the fortress roof, each team racing toward assigned targets. Within moments, the first charges detonate. Belgian gunners inside armored cupolas feel their world convulse. Steel plates designed to withstand conventional bombardment buckle inward, concrete cracks and fragments. Not all charges penetrate completely. The unlined hollow charges shake some turrets without destroying them. When that happens, paratroopers resort to a cruder method. They stuff explosive charges directly down gun barrels. The artillery pieces rupture from within. The battle lasts barely minutes in its most intense phase. Belgian defenders find themselves deaf, disoriented, trapped in shattered positions. Communication lines are cut. Counterattacks cannot be coordinated. The few soldiers who attempt to engage the paratroopers above ground face elite troops who have rehearsed every movement. By the time Belgian relief forces mobilize, the fortress has effectively ceased to function as a military installation. The next day, May 11th, the garrison surrenders. The most impregnable fortress in Europe has fallen to fewer than 100 men. News of Ibn Emmail shocks military establishments worldwide. How did German paratroopers destroy positions designed to withstand prolonged siege? Allied intelligence scrambles for answers. The Germans keep the shaped charge secret as long as possible, but the implications are clear to anyone paying attention. A new era in warfare has begun. No armor is truly impenetrable. No fortress is truly impregnable. The British accelerate their shaped charge program. By 1940, they field the first heat weapon in combat service, the grenade rifle No. 68 anti-tank. This weapon uses a 63.5 mm cup launcher fitted to the end of a rifle barrel. The shaped charge warhead can penetrate 52 millimeters of armor. Simple fins provide stability in flight. A firing pin in the tail initiates detonation on impact, provided the grenade strikes at approximately 90 degrees. The weapon proves somewhat unreliable. Soldiers struggle to achieve proper impact angles. But the concept works. Infantry can now threaten vehicles they previously could only flee from. Germany introduces its own gun-fired heat round in mid-1940. The 7.5-centimeter Granat 38 hollow charge is fired by the short-barreled KWK 37L24 cannon mounted on Panzer IV tanks and Stu G3 assault guns. These vehicles previously struggled against heavy armor. Their low-velocity guns lack the kinetic energy for effective penetration with conventional rounds. The heat shell changes everything. The penetrating jet forms regardless of velocity. A slow-moving shell kills tanks as effectively as one traveling twice as fast. By 1941, Germany produces heat rifle grenades. The Gewehr Panzergranat 40 goes first to paratroopers, then to regular infantry by 1942. Soldiers who previously required anti-tank guns or specialized vehicles can now carry tank-killing capability in their packs. Meanwhile, Henry Mohaupt has reached America. The fall of France in 1940 leaves him without European patrons. The United States Army welcomes him as a consultant. He brings his expertise to the most ambitious shaped charge project yet undertaken, the development of a practical infantry anti-tank rocket launcher. Colonel Leslie Skinner and Lieutenant Colonel Edward Uhl have been working on rocket-propelled weapons for years. They recognize that the critical missing element is a warhead capable of defeating armor. Mohaupt provides the solution. The shaped charge anti-tank grenade evolves rapidly. The M10 grenade proves effective against 60 millimeters of vehicle armor, but the grenade weighs 3.5 pounds, far too heavy to throw by hand and too massive for reliable rifle launching. Skinner and Uhl devise an alternative, a hollow tube that directs a rocket's exhaust rearward while launching the projectile forward. The weapon produces no recoil because expanding gases escape from both ends. A shaped charge warhead sits at the front of the rocket. In May 1942, the system undergoes competitive trials at Aberdeen Proving Ground against various Spigot mortars. The demonstration proves decisive. The rocket launcher outperforms every competitor. American ordnance officers immediately recognize the potential. Mass production begins. Soldiers nickname the weapon after a novelty instrument popular in 1930s music halls. The bazooka enters service. The M1 bazooka fires a 2.36-inch diameter rocket with a shaped charge warhead. Penetration reaches approximately 3 inches of armor plate at effective combat ranges. Against Panzer III and Panzer IV tanks, this proves adequate. American infantry in North Africa and Italy find themselves able to engage German armor that would previously have required anti-tank guns or air support. The psychological effect proves as significant as the physical damage. Tank crews must now fear every doorway, every pile of rubble, every infantry position. Before we continue with this story of technological revolution, I want to thank everyone who has subscribed to the channel. If you have not yet subscribed, please consider doing so now and hitting the notification bell. This content takes significant research to produce, and your support makes it possible. The Germans do not remain idle. In late 1942, German forces capture examples of the American bazooka from Soviet troops who received them through Lend-Lease. Additional examples fall into German hands during Operation Torch in North Africa. German engineers immediately recognize both the potential and the limitations. The 60mm warhead lacks penetrating power against newer tank designs. German scientists designed something larger. The Raketenpanzerbüchse, rocket armor rifle, enters service in 1943. Allied soldiers call it the Panzerschreck, tank terror. The weapon increases warhead diameter from 60 to 88 millimeters. The larger-shaped charge penetrates significantly more armor. German infantry can now threaten the thickest armor on Allied tanks. The weapon requires a two-man crew and generates a dangerous backblast that necessitates a protective shield, but its killing power transforms infantry tactics. Even more revolutionary is the Panzerfaust. Development begins in summer 1942 at the Hugo Schneider AG Company, known by its abbreviation HASAG. A team headed by Dr. Heinrich Langweiler in Leipzig creates the initial prototype, codenamed Gretchen, Little Greta. Unlike the Bazooka and Panzerschreck, the Panzerfaust uses a recoilless principle rather than a rocket motor. A propellant charge inside the tube ejects the warhead forward, while simultaneously venting gases rearward. The two forces balance. The shooter feels no recoil. The early Faust Patrone features a launch tube just 33 millimeters in diameter. The warhead, however, measures 100 millimeters across. It contains 400 grams of a 50-50 mixture of TNT and trihexogen shaped into a hollow charge. Black powder propellant weighing 54 grams pushes the warhead to a velocity sufficient for engagements at 30 meters. Penetration reaches 140 millimeters of steel plate. Subsequent versions increase capability dramatically. The Panzerfaust 30, named for its effective range in meters, enters service in August 1943. The Panzerfaust 60 arrives in September 1944 with improved range. The Panzerfaust 100 debuts in November 1944. Each version enhances range, penetration, or both. The final wartime variant, Panzerfaust 150, increases effective range to 150 meters and penetrates 200 millimeters of armor. What makes the Panzerfaust revolutionary is not merely its power, but its simplicity. The weapon requires minimal training. Soldiers can be taught basic operation in hours rather than the weeks required for complex weapon systems. Production costs remain low. Factories can manufacture them in enormous quantities using materials that do not compete with tank or aircraft production. By 1944, Germany produces hundreds of thousands monthly. Every infantry squad can carry multiple launchers. Every building can become an anti-tank strongpoint. The shaped charge warhead itself reaches new levels of sophistication. The Panzerfaust uses a distinctive horn-shaped liner rather than a traditional cone. This design concentrates the jet differently, producing an entry hole significantly larger than comparable cone-shaped warheads. The American bazooka creates an entry hole approximately half an inch in diameter. The Panzerfaust tears openings several inches across. Behind armor effects prove correspondingly devastating. Allied tank crews develop an instinctive fear of close terrain. Urban areas become death traps. Forests conceal countless threats. Even open fields offer concealment in ditches and shell craters. The psychological burden weighs on men who must advance, knowing that a single soldier with a tube of metal and explosive can end their lives in an instant. Tank-infantry cooperation becomes critical. Tanks without infantry support face unacceptable risks in confined terrain. Infantry without tank support lack mobile firepower. The combined arms doctrine that emerges from this period remains fundamental to modern warfare. The physics underlying these weapons deserves examination. A shaped charge functions through the precise geometric focusing of explosive force. When detonation initiates at the rear of the charge, a shock wave propagates forward through the explosive material. This shock wave is perpendicular to the surface of the explosive. A conical cavity focuses and concentrates the shock wave toward points along the cone's central axis. As detonation progresses, the concentrated wave gathers energy. The metal liner transforms this energy into penetrating force. The shock wave reaches the liner and imparts tremendous acceleration. The liner collapses inward upon itself at the cone's axis. This collision forms a jet of metal particles. Most of the jet material originates from the innermost 10 to 20% of the liner thickness. This inner layer accelerates to hypersonic velocity, traveling at 7 to 14 kilometers per second at the jet tip. The outer liner material forms a slower-moving slug, sometimes called a carrot for its shape. The jet does not travel at uniform velocity. The tip moves fastest. Subsequent portions move progressively slower. This velocity gradient stretches the jet as it travels. Eventually, the stretching causes the jet to break into discrete particles. Before breakup, the continuous jet achieves maximum penetration. After breakup, the particles begin drifting off-axis. Penetration depth decreases. Understanding this physics explains why standoff distance matters critically. If a shaped charge detonates too close to its target, the jet has insufficient time to form properly. If it detonates too far away, the jet breaks up and disperses before impact. Optimal standoff varies by charge design, but generally falls between 6 and 20 charge diameters for high-quality modern warheads. World War II designs with less precise construction had shorter optimal standoffs and earlier jet breakup. The penetration process itself defies intuition. At jet velocities measured in kilometers per second, both jet and armor behave as fluids rather than solids. The jet does not push through armor in the conventional sense. It erodes armor through hydrodynamic interaction. The pressures involved reach 1 trillion pascals, sufficient to make steel flow like water. Metallurgical strength becomes largely irrelevant. What matters is density. Denser liner materials produce denser jets. Denser jets penetrate deeper. Copper, with its combination of density and ductility, becomes the preferred liner material. Some modern designs use tantalum, tungsten alloys, or even depleted uranium for enhanced performance. Early World War II shaped charges penetrated armor equal to 150 to 250% of their diameter. A warhead 60 millimeters across might penetrate 90 to 150 millimeters of steel. By war's end, improved designs achieved significantly higher ratios. Modern heat warheads regularly penetrate armor equal to 700% of their diameter or more. A charge 100 millimeters in diameter can defeat 700 millimeters of steel plate. 7 layers of armor 100 millimeters thick, or the equivalent. This is the shell that burns through 7 armor plates in a single shot. The implications transform military thinking. Traditional armor protection relied on thickness and hardness. Add more steel. Angle it to increase effective thickness. Case-hardened surfaces to shatter incoming projectiles. Against kinetic penetrators, these approaches work. Against shaped charges, they fail. The jet's behavior as a fluid means angle provides minimal benefit. The jet simply turns and continues penetrating. Hardness means nothing when pressures exceed any material strength. Thickness helps, but the relationship is not linear. Doubling armor thickness does not have penetration. It merely delays the inevitable for marginally larger warheads. Tank designers face an impossible choice. Make armor thick enough to defeat shaped charges and the vehicle becomes too heavy to move. Make the vehicle mobile and accept vulnerability to infantry weapons. Some armies choose mobility. The French AMX-30 and German Leopard 1 carry deliberately modest armor in exchange for speed and agility. Others choose protection where possible, mobility where not. The American M60 patent concentrates thick armor at the turret front and hull front, accepting thinner protection elsewhere. The true answer emerges decades later with composite armor and reactive armor. Composite armor sandwiches layers of steel, ceramic, and other materials. Each layer interacts differently with shape-charged jets. Ceramics erode jets faster than steel alone. Gaps between layers allow jets to disperse. Reactive armor goes further. Explosive panels detonate outward when struck, disrupting incoming jets before they can form properly. These technologies restore some advantage to armored vehicles, but they also add weight, cost, and complexity. The fundamental challenge posed by shaped charges remains unsolved. During World War II, simpler countermeasures see limited use. German tanks receive Schürzen skirt armor consisting of thin steel plates mounted on brackets away from the main hull and turret. Originally designed to protect against Soviet anti-tank rifle rounds, the Schürzen accidentally provide some protection against early shaped charges. The spaced gap allows jets to begin dispersing before reaching primary armor. Performance degrades at extended standoff. The countermeasure is imperfect, but better than nothing. American tankers improvise their own protection. Sandbags stacked on hull fronts and turrets add mass without adding steel. Track links welded to armor surfaces serve similar purpose. Whether these field modifications actually help remains debated. Some shaped charges benefit from extended standoff, detonating closer to optimal distance. The psychology matters regardless. Crews who believe they have done something to protect themselves fight with greater confidence. The war ends in 1945. Shaped charge weapons have transformed the battlefield, but remain poorly understood by the general public. In February 1945, Popular Science magazine finally reveals the secret. An article titled "It Makes Steel Flow Like Mud" explains how the bazooka actually works. The article reprints portions of Charles Monroe's 1894 experiments. Readers learn that velocity matters little for shaped charges. A rocket traveling at modest speed kills tanks as effectively as high-velocity cannon rounds. The mystery behind America's fabled tank killer is finally revealed. The post-war period sees rapid evolution. Infantry anti-tank weapons proliferate globally. The American bazooka evolves into the 3.5-inch M20 Super Bazooka with enhanced penetration. The Soviet Union develops the RPG-2 and its descendants, culminating in the ubiquitous RPG-7 that remains in service worldwide today. Recoilless rifles mount shaped charge warheads for longer range engagements. The Swedish Carl Gustaf becomes standard equipment for Western infantry. Anti-tank guided missiles appear in the 1950s. The French Nord SS-11 mounts a shaped charge warhead on a wire-guided missile controllable to ranges of 3,000 meters. In 1956, French forces mount these missiles on Alouette II helicopters, creating the first helicopter tank killers. The concept spreads rapidly. By the 1960s, helicopters armed with anti-tank missiles threaten armored formations at distances beyond effective return fire. The tank's dominance of open terrain faces unprecedented challenge. The 1973 Arab-Israeli War demonstrates the new reality. Egyptian infantry, armed with Soviet Sagar missiles, devastate Israeli armored columns crossing the Suez Canal. Israeli tank crews trained to dominate Arab armor in open desert find themselves picked apart by infantry they cannot see and cannot engage. Hundreds of tanks are destroyed in days. The Israeli Defense Forces adapt, developing combined arms tactics that suppress missile teams before advancing. But the lesson is clear. Tanks cannot operate independently against infantry equipped with modern anti-tank missiles. Tandem warheads emerge to defeat reactive armor. The first warhead detonates the reactive panel. The second warhead, following microseconds behind, strikes exposed armor with full force. The engineering challenge is immense. Fusing must be precise. The warheads must be isolated from each other to prevent sympathetic detonation. Yet, the technology works. The American Tau-2A missile enters service in the mid-1980s with a precursor warhead designed specifically to defeat Soviet reactive armor. Russian designers respond with improved reactive armor. The cycle continues. Modern shaped charge warheads achieve performance their World War II predecessors could not imagine. The BGM-71 Tau-2 warhead, 150 millimeters in diameter, penetrates approximately 1,000 millimeters of rolled homogeneous armor at optimal standoff. That is 1 meter of solid steel defeated by a missile that weighs under 25 kilograms complete. Infantry can carry 2 such missiles. Helicopters carry dozens. The penetration figures strain belief, yet prove accurate in combat. The physics has not changed since Charles Monroe tied dynamite around a tin can in 1894. Explosive energy focuses through a shaped cavity. A metal liner transforms into a hypersonic jet. Steel flows like mud under pressures exceeding anything found in nature. What has changed is precision. Modern liners are formed to tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch. Explosive compositions detonate with near-perfect symmetry. Fusing systems ensure optimal standoff regardless of impact angle. Each improvement adds penetration. Each improvement makes armor less relevant. The legacy extends beyond pure military application. The petroleum industry uses shaped charges to perforate well casings, allowing oil and gas to flow into collection pipes. Construction companies use linear shaped charges to cut steel beams during controlled demolition. The Japanese Space Agency mounted a shaped charge on the Hayabusa 2 probe, detonating it on asteroid Ryugu to excavate pristine samples from beneath the surface. A weapon born to destroy fortresses now helps humanity explore the solar system. Yet the military legacy remains paramount. The shaped charge democratized anti-tank warfare. Before 1940, destroying a tank required another tank, a specialized anti-tank gun, an artillery piece, or an aircraft. After 1940, any infantryman could carry tank-killing capability. The Panzerfaust cost a fraction of a tank shell. Training required hours instead of weeks. Armies could mass-produce the weapons from materials that did not compete with other production priorities. A tank costing tens of thousands of man-hours to build could be destroyed by a weapon costing dozens. The equation has only grown more asymmetric. Modern anti-tank missiles cost thousands of dollars. Modern main battle tanks cost millions. A determined defender with missile launchers in prepared positions can destroy attacking armor at ratios that make offensive operations prohibitively expensive. This reality shapes contemporary conflict. The Russian invasion of Ukraine has seen thousands of armored vehicles destroyed by shoulder-launched weapons, including American Javelins and British NLOWs. Tank formations that dominated World War II and Cold War planning now face existential threat from infantry weapons descended directly from the Panzerfaust and bazooka. The fortress is no longer impregnable. The tank is no longer invincible. 85 men proved it on May 10, 1940, landing silently on a Belgian hilltop with weapons that focused explosive fury into jets of molten metal. Charles Monroe proved it in 1894, tying dynamite around a tin can and punching through 4 inches of steel. Franz Tomanek proved it in a Berlin laboratory in 1938, adding a copper liner and watching metal stream forward at velocities beyond imagination. Henry Mohaupt proved it in Swiss mountains, recognizing potential where others saw only curiosity. The shell that burns through 7 armor plates in a single shot is not a single weapon. It is a principle, a fundamental truth about physics that humans discovered, developed, and weaponized across decades of research and warfare. The metal jet travels at 14 kilometers per second. The pressure reaches 1 trillion pascals. Steel flows like water. Armor becomes meaningless. The jet punches through 7 charge diameters of steel, then 8, then 10. Modern warheads exceed ratios their inventors would have dismissed as fantasy. And yet the story does not end. Engineers continue refining liner materials, explosive compositions, and detonation geometries. Defensive systems evolve to counter each improvement. Active protection systems detect incoming missiles and destroy them before impact. Electric armor uses capacitor discharge to disrupt jets. Trophy, Iron Fist, Arena, and dozens of other systems compete to restore survivability to armored vehicles. The eternal contest between offense and defense continues. What remains constant is the principle Charles Monroe discovered by accident over 130 years ago. Focus explosive energy through a shaped cavity, add a metal liner to form a jet, watch impossibly strong materials flow like liquid under impossible pressures. The shell that burns through 7 armor plates is not magic, it is physics, elegant and brutal and transformative. Thank you for watching this deep dive into the history of shaped charge warfare. If you found this content valuable, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment letting us know what topics you would like us to cover next. Your support allows us to continue producing detailed historical content. Until next time.